Financial fraud is one of the most common crimes committed by humans all over the world and much more in the United States. Every sector in the United States has a story to tell about financial fraud, and the health sector is not innocent. On today's episode of the Fraud Files, we will be exploring a very unique case of financial crime in one of the United States health sector, a crime that has left many shocked, disappointed, and in tears. This is the case of the former Sarasota pain doctor, Dr. Stephen Chun, and a former Insys sales representative, Tondre. This will be an interesting story, so make sure you watch till the end to follow the details. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to become part of this channel and click the bell icon to get notified of our subsequent videos. So, let's dive into today's episode. According to the documents presented in court, the 59-year-old Dr. Chun was a doctor who owned and managed a pain management medical practice in Sarasota, Florida, where he sold a large quantity of Insys, an expensive liquid fentanyl made to be used under the tongue. It's a sublingual spray, allowing it to easily enter the bloodstream. The 52-year-old Tondre, on the other hand, worked as a sales representative at Insys Therapeutics Incorporated, the company that manufactured and sold Insys. Insys, through its sales representative, Tondre, actively promoted Insys to Dr. Chun by organizing fake and hoax speaker events and paid Dr. Chun $2,400 to $3,000 per event in return for writing more and higher dosages of Insys prescriptions. The fake speaker events were always attended by Chun's friends, family, or repeat attendees who would pose as newcomers and often falsify their signatures. The speaker program Dr. Chun was a part of was a sham designed to pump up more of the medication to more patients and enrich the pockets of sales representatives and the company. In an email statement to the I-Team in 2019, Dr. Chun said, "These speaker presentations had absolutely no impact on my prescribing habits. I have always been dedicated to my patients and have provided them with the highest medical care." Dr. Chun's attorney argued in closing statements that he could not be bribed and that he believed in the product Insys and that the medication was in the best interest of his patients. She argued that Chun did not know Insys was tracking his prescriptions, paid for in part or in whole by Medicare. Dr. Chun, in his closing statement, said that he had no control over the kickback fraud scheme and was under pressure by Insys, but federal prosecutors showed a text evidence in court referring to Dr. Stephen Chun that said he knows numbers are low. He is working on it. This countered Dr. Chun's and his attorney's claims. The government, while making its closing statement in the case against Chun and Tondre, said, "This is about patience." The I-Team approached Dr. Chun while walking out of the courthouse to ask if he had any message for his patients, and he said, "You know, I'm very disappointed with the verdict, so talk to my lawyer about it." But neither Tondre nor Chun's lawyers said anything about it when interviewed. During the investigation, it was also discovered that Insys also bribed Dr. Chun, a large Insys prescriber, by employing his girlfriend to pose as an Insys liaison to smoothen the approval of insurance forms for Insys, including the insurance forms submitted for Medicare patients. The fake speaker events were made in order to disguise and conceal kickbacks and bribes paid to Dr. Chun to entice him to prescribe Insys. The investigation was carried out by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Defense Criminal Investigative Service, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Officer of Inspector General, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and by the Opioid Fraud Abuse and Detection Unit at the United States Attorney's Office, which focuses on opioid-related fraud and abuse by medical health care professionals who have contributed to the prescription opioid epidemic. The enormous evidence presented during the 10-day trial revealed that Dr. Chun earned more than $278,000 in bribes and legal kickbacks from Insys in connection with the fake speaker events over a period of less than 3 years. Dr. Chun was also hired to serve as a consultant by a local pharmacy where he directed patients to fill Insys and other medications. Tondre made more than $737,000 in sales commissions and salary over the period of 2.5 years. Medicare Part D paid out more than $4.5 million for Insys prescriptions written by Dr. Chun. In Tampa Bay, Florida, United States Attorney Robert B. Hanberg informed the general public that a federal jury found Dr. Stephen Chun and Tondre guilty. They were found guilty for conspiring to pay and receive bribes and kickbacks disguised as speaker fees in compensation for prescribing the fentanyl spray Subsys. They were both also convicted on 5 separate counts of paying and receiving kickbacks on specific dates. Daniel Tondre was convicted of 2 counts of identification fraud in regards to the fake speaker programs. Each of them faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in federal prison on the conspiracy count and up to 10 years in prison for each substantive kickback violation. Daniel Tondre also faces up to 5 years of imprisonment on each identification fraud count. Insys Therapeutics Incorporated founder John Kapoor and 4 other company officials were convicted over their roles in a scheme to bribe doctors and prescribe addictive opioids and defraud insurers into paying for them. The First U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Boston ruled 3-0 that unalloyed greed drove the defendants to sell the fentanyl spray Subsys to pill mill doctors who would then prescribe it to patients with no medical need. The Insys executives were found guilty of running a nationwide bribery scheme. The case centered on the potent opioid painkiller Subsys that Insys developed and aggressively marketed. Before the trial began, the 2 high-level Insys executives pleaded guilty and testified during the trial. Alec Berlikoff of Charlotte, North Carolina, the former vice president of sales, and Michael Babich of Scottsdale, Arizona, the former CEO and president of the company. In a 138-page decision, Circuit Court Judge Bruce Selya wrote that Kapoor and Insys, who had been their chief executive, deserved great credit for manufacturing Subsys to treat cancer pain, but in their desperation for gain, turned to what should have been a blessing into a curse. From May 2012 to December 2015, the defendants conspired to bribe medical practitioners, many of whom operated pain clinics, in order to induce them to prescribe Insys fentanyl-based pain medication Subsys to patients, often when medically unnecessary. As discussed, Subsys is a powerful, rapid-onset opioid intended to treat cancer patients suffering intense breakthrough pain. The 77-year-old Kapoor was convicted in 2019 and is serving a 5.5-year prison sentence. He remains the highest-ranking pharmaceutical executive convicted for helping fuel the U.S. opioid epidemic. His co-defendants Richard Simon, Sunrise Lee, Joseph Rowan, and Michael Gurry were sentenced to terms of 1 to 2 to 4 years. A lower court judge has set aside some of the jury findings, but the appeals court restored the original verdicts. The decision is a decisive win that vindicates the jury's verdict and preserves a just outcome for the defendants and the victims. Acting U.S. Attorney Nathaniel Mendel in Boston said in a statement. Lee's lawyer, Peter Horstman, commented, "There are no words to adequately express my displeasure with the court's opinion." Lawyers for the other defendants did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Kapoor's attorney declined to comment. Prosecutors said Insys used sham speaker programs ostensibly to educate the medical field as a means to pay bribes and kickbacks to doctors who prescribed Subsys, often to non-cancer patients. Now we close another fraud file regarding the doctor who got kicked for taking kickbacks. Remember, if you play with the wrong medications, you will get hurt. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe to our channel and push that like button. Stay tuned to our channel for amazing videos like this one by clicking the bell icon. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comment section below about this event. We'll see you in another fraud file soon. Until then, only take your prescribed medications.